Tā. Labdien! Hello everyone! Today you are going to have your third and last lecture on Latvian folklore. I.V.Ābele will deliver the lecture today. She is a coordinator of the folklore band named Banga. Every year she and her band entertain our participants with folk song and involves the audience into dancing and playing games. Today,
just me.
So, yes, and fortunately, this not that can be done on Zoom. So we hope you will enjoy the lecture. The floor is yours, Ilga.
Thank you so much, Sarnita. And it is really nice to see you all. As I understand, many of you come from Asia, and this is just mind-blowing that we can be here at the same time talking about Latvian traditional culture. Yes, usually we do these lectures together with my friends, one of my folk group Banga, but if you want to, you can also dance by yourself today because there will be 2 videos with music. So if you feel free, you can turn off camera while the videos are played, so you can get this experience in that way. But most of the time I will be talking about Latvian traditions, and I have 2 parts of my presentation. And you can ask anytime your questions in the chat, but there will be also several times when I will be specifically asking if somebody has any questions. So I'll start the presentation and I'll tell a little bit about myself. I'm Ilga. I come from Latvia and I have been studying folkloristics, Baltic folkloristics especially. I just graduated my master's in University of Latvia. And I also, yes, I'm a leader of folk group that just had its 5th anniversary. Basically, it's just me and my friends Latvian folk music together, and not only folk music, also several traditions and celebrations. So today I will start my my presentation with a little context of on what times maybe these traditions that we know as local summer solstice, for example, Jāņi, or traditional clothing, or just anything that is connected with Latvian traditional culture. What was the time when it what was created became as a tradition? So imagine this this place of the world, this location, several I don't know, hundreds of years ago, people living mostly in the countryside and trying to survive in this weather, really harsh winters, cold and long and dark winters, shorter summers, but also, just 4 seasons have been here and still are. And people were trying to live in the balance with nature in terms to survive the cold winters, to provide for themselves and their families, their households. So nature and the cycle of nature and the sun and seasons were really, really important things for these people living in this area. So this is my first point on my presentation. This one word, gadskārtas, you can translate them as seasonal celebrations or like parts of the year. And the same name is for these circles that you can see if you cut a tree. So each circle creates during 1 year of the life of the tree. And when you cut it, you can see how old the tree was when it was living. So this is the same word for seasonal celebrations for each seasonal festival that was happening at a certain time of the year. If we would put it on a circle, you can see the most important celebrations, seasons, you know. Jāņi is summer solstice, Ziemassvētki is winter solstice, Lieldienas is Easter as a spring solstice, and Miķeļi, there are several names for this celebration, is autumn solstice. So I'll put it back. You see the seasons, and this is like the local name of traditional festival that was happening and was celebrated during the year, during the time of the year. But these celebrations were not the only ones celebrated over time. Also, you can see that in between each celebration, there's another time of the year that was marked specifically as Māras diena, Mārtiņi, Meteņi, Ūsiņi. So imagine if here is like, for example, middle of June, maybe at the end of the June. Here we go further. It's already some time around August. Maybe actually this time could be, yeah, around this time we are living right now. Maybe further a little bit. Miķeļi. This is the autumn. Autumn is coming. So around end of September, maybe. Mārtiņi, beginning of November. Ziemassvētki is the Christmas time, end of December. Meteņi is further, already spring is coming, maybe February, something around that. Lieldienas is spring solstice, so March 21st. And Ūsiņi is in between Easter and Jāņi, so beginning of May or some time around that. This is just approximately, because years ago people didn't follow exact date of the calendar. They were observing nature, and when the sun was at its peak, then the solstice was celebrated. When the sun was staying and not moving anywhere for several days, then these in-between celebrations were held. I will go further deeper for each of the celebration, but you have to keep in mind that this also wasn't it. There were also more celebrations that were celebrated over the year. And it can seem that people, Latvians living here centuries ago, did nothing than celebrating all the time, you know, having a party. But this is not the case. They were actually working really, really hard. But one thing we can maybe learn today from these people were that they also knew how to rest and how to celebrate the fruits of their work. So this was really important to mark the time of the year, to also kind of mythologically put a pin in your head that times are changing. We lived through the winter, so now spring is coming. So we change kind of our thinking towards to the next what's coming. And today I will start with the peak of the summer, partly because this is the most popular celebration still in Latvia that is so much connected with traditional culture, that doesn't have like exactly celebration that is also connected, for example, with church tradition, which happens with the Easter or Christmas. But yes, this is, for some reason, people are still celebrating Jāņi or summer solstice a lot. This is also commercialized and in many ways a really popular festival. We even have it as a national holiday, so you don't have to work during the end of the June, sometime around 23rd and 24th are the official holidays. Yes. So what is Jāņi? Jāņi is the time of the year where the day is the longest. So the night is the shortest and the brightest as well. if you have celebrated Jāņi, maybe you have noticed that there's no time during that night when it gets completely dark. You can still easily see around, and the night is really short. So, as I mentioned, people were living in a huge harmony with the nature, and crucial part of nature in this part of the world is the sun, because without the sun, and here the sun usually is gentle and not as hot and destroying as maybe this summer we experienced with plus 30 degrees constantly. But yes, usually without the sun, nothing could grow in this part of the world. And this was like the biggest celebration of the sun. Everything that happens during Jāņi is somehow symbolizes sun. For example, you can see in the photo here, people are doing a traditional game around the fireplace in a circle. So this symbolizes the sun, the shape of the sun, but also like the journey for Earth around the sun, and also the sun itself, spinning, turning, moving, changing. Times are changing, and we change along with the times. Yes, and also another important thing connected with Jāņi is fertility, wealth. This is the time of the year when it's not yet the harvest time, but people put like big I don't know, stress on things to be growing. So they do several rituals that are connected with the believing that it will help to get a bigger harvest. For example, let's do the dances and we do the dances with a lot of jumping, because then lots of things will come out from the earth, from the soil. So we will have a wealthy autumn time, and we will be able to survive the long winter that is coming always. And during Jāņi, also people were kind of looking and trying to maybe figure out maybe who would be my potential future partner, fertility in that term as well, not only according to what's happening in the nature, but according also what's happening in people personal lives, and how we are continuing living in this world as individuals. I will now play a video that I think very nicely shows and very accurately shows how people are celebrating Jāņi today. And this is an example of one household that hosts Jāņi every 3 years. And this celebration is very popular because they have many friends that have many friends and relatives, and over the years, the amount of people that are attending their event has grown out of, I don't know, maybe 300 people are going there. I have been there myself as well. And yes, these people are doing it all. Several rituals are really important for them, as having a fireplace and kind of putting a lot of accent of the fire and the life that the fire symbolizes. Also, they do this collective sitting at the table and eating all together as one household, kind of uniting for it. Also dancing, of course, singing, and always, always, always you stay awake until the sunrise. You have to live through this shortest night of the year in terms to greet the sun and be ready for it, and be ready and aware for the life that is coming after this time of the year. I hope the quality of the sound won't be very bad. I bet it won't be perfect. But yeah, I will try to play it with the sound. I should change the screen what I'm showing you. So if the sound is really, really bad, maybe just tell me, please, and then I will mute it. Maybe I will stop it somewhere to explain what's happening there. But enjoy Jāņa celebration nowadays. So that was Jāņi. It's always really nice for me to see it as well because, yeah, I have been there and it's magnificent. Like so many people gathering together and yeah, you can see also in the faces of the people that's really, really important for them. And of course, it's not like that most of inhabitants of Latvia do it like that. But actually, a big part of people in here each year more and more want to celebrate this time of the year in that way. So if, for example, for most people, maybe still some parts of this festival have been, kept alive. For example, drinking beer or sitting around bonfire. Then more and more each year, as I myself have noticed, that people are looking for places where like the real Yani celebration is happening, so they could also experience something like this. But moving further, further to the time of the year we are right now, there is this another tradition is that is not like the seasonal celebration as Gadskārta, but just describing the time of the year and what's happening is talka. And talka means like collective work, working together. In many languages of the world, you also have talka uh, in one word. For example, in Lithuanian it's the same. In Estonian it's talgud, and for many others I don't remember. But yes, this is time of the year when, you know, sometime around July, end of July and August and September as well, when people were harvesting the goods that were growing out of their gardens. And if you were like owner of big fields of grain, for example, it was physically not possible without any, you know, big technique to harvest it all. So during this time of the year, people were inviting relatives, friends, neighbors to come together and help each other to harvest. For example, potato talkas, they were happening a lot, a different kind of grain harvesting, rye, wheat, linen, also several talkas, several kinds of talkas. Also cleaning the stables or other places where animals were kept. So this is, in my opinion, this is very beautiful tradition, and it shows that people, you know, take care of each other. They are open for helping out. But also you have to remember, for example, you live in your household in countryside, and one time you just say, well, no, sorry, neighbor, I won't go to your talka for some reason. Imagine who would come to your talk, because your time also will come. So I think it was not only helping out, we like each other, we are friendly and helpful, but also just considering that practically you cannot do it alone, never. So each household had their talkas. And these photos are showing how me and my friends were trying to learn these old jobs, all type of talkas. For example, yes, harvesting the food for farm animals, and also cleaning a stable. On your left, you can see that dirty job. So we were willing to find out how difficult, for example, these old jobs were for people who were living in countries. And of course, as a city girl or boy, you cannot like completely understand that if you just once go to this countryside part of Latvia and try it out. But maybe some kind of understanding it gave us. But also in Latvia, this time or this concept is not continued only in this traditional kind of understanding, but also as an official every year action that is organized by several environmental organizations and municipalities. So people come together and clean forests, parks, and any other nature places out of trash that is a lot in Latvia, sometimes left after parties, or in general, people just throw, you know, their garbage in the nature. So during Lielā talka, or the big talka, people are asked and invited to come together as a country and collect different kinds of trash out of nature places. And during this time of the year, for example, around August, maybe end of August, when not not everything is yet harvested, but is coming to the end. Another celebration comes. This is not very popular nowadays, but according to Latvian folk songs, a day of Māra or Māras diena was celebrated. Most of the materials I am basing this presentation on is Latvian traditional folk songs. We have many of them. We have 1 million in this region. And yes, Māra as a goddess, as a character of Latvian mythology, is mentioned mostly connected with the life, just in general, like a guardian of life, but also connected with several things that symbolizes life, and life cannot be happening without. And in here, for example, grains, different kind of grains were really important for people, and especially the grains that bread was made of. For example, rye. As you can see in the picture, black bread that is very popular in Latvia, and maybe you cannot find it in different parts of the world. So black bread, and you can see in the bread there is a symbol. So this bread is just prepared just a moment before baking, and while it's still wet, you can put some kind of symbolism in. And this is a cross of Māra. So this is like one of Latvian traditional signs that symbolizes this goddess of Latvians. Māra is a guardian of life, guardian of also grinding grains, for example. When the grains are harvested but not grinded yet, Māra is kind of standing next to the barn and helping or just taking care that everything will go smoothly. And in many folk songs, Māra is also called as a bread giver. So if there are folk songs about bread itself, most likely these songs will mention Māra as a character as well. But the real celebration of the harvesting, end of harvesting, is Miķeli. And there are several ways how you can call this time of the year. Also Rudenāji, as meaning like the time of the autumn, celebration of autumn, or Apjumības. Jumis is another character of Latvian mythology. And Apjumības is like the time of the year when the process of Jumis is happening. It's hard to completely, translate it correctly. But yes, this time of the year, end of September, maybe around, is when everything is harvested and put it in the barn and prepared for the winter time. And this is that time of the year when people are the most wealthy, they have the most of the food, so they can enjoy it a little bit. So usually celebrations with a lot of food were happening, so people were just, yay, we have food, we will survive this winter. And you can see the photo of like official event that was made by Riga city, just in the center of old Riga. You can see that, yeah, pumpkins, for example, is one symbol of this time of the year. So after harvesting everything and celebrating it, slowly you can feel already that the colder time is coming. And the next celebration in between Miķeli, what was autumn solstice, and winter solstice, is Mārtiņi. So if you put it in nowadays calendar, maybe the beginning of November. Also, you can, if you are from a place of the world where name days are celebrated, as also it is the case of Latvia, you can spot these times of the year more easily, because in the calendar, I believe it was 6th or 9th of November where Mārtiņš name day celebrated. So this is connected still with the traditional lifestyle. And Mārtiņš was considered to be the time of the year where the winter is beginning. It's not like the peak of the winter yet, what is Ziemassvētki or Christmas. But yes, it's coming and it's beginning. It's already there. The first frost is coming. So Mārtiņš is an envoy of darkness, is starting to have its time. And you can see in one folk song that I translated, tried to translate in English, how exactly, how precisely people were connecting these things with the nature, with the things they observed in the nature. For example, this folk song, Mārtiņš labs vīrs tiltiņu grīda, Katriņa mīzele izārdīja. So it says that Martin was the guy that created the first frost, builded the bridge as a metaphor. So during the beginning of the November, maybe not anymore like today, times are changing, climate change, but we can see that, yes, from this folk song several hundreds of years ago, the beginning of November was usually the time when the first frost came. But usually after the first frost, again, some kind of warmer days comes. And this is around the name day of Catherine, around 2 weeks after Mārtiņš Day. So in this particular folk song, she is called a pisser because she makes the frost to become liquid again. So she's a pisser, and she destroyed this bridge that Mārtiņš, this nice guy that took care of us, built it. So yeah, you can maybe put more together, easily more together, this understanding of how people maybe were connecting these things together. The time of Mārtiņš is also the time of the year where traditional mask processions starts. Also in this part of the world, as well as in many different parts, people were masking during the winter time. This is not. This is kind of universal tradition. Maybe you can, for example, probably the masked processions that were happening in ancient Greece, for example. So, or yeah, nowadays carnivals or Halloween is also, rooted in this understanding, in this mythological thinking that the winter time, the darker time of the year, is when the spirits and ghosts become alive. So it's dark outside, it's tricky, you can never know who you meet outside. And yes, from Mārtiņš until the springtime, people were going in masked processions to kind of encourage themselves not to be afraid of these spirits, and maybe impersonating themselves, kind of trying to build some kind of protection against them. Also, it was needed just practically, you have so long winter, you have not that many things you can do. You can maybe read some books if you know how to read. You can do some weaving or knitting or any other, indoors jobs, but there's not that much you can do during this long time of the year. So people were trying to maybe trying to make the coldness go away earlier. So they were dressing up and going from house to house, making so much noise, and kind of trying to, go away, winter time. Let's wake up and move forward. But yes, during Martinstein, these kind of masked processions were the most popular ones. There are several groups of masks, traditional mask groups that are written down in the Latvian folklore materials. And these guys you can call as Mārtiņu bērni, or the children of Mārtiņš. You can see they're very funky looking, like old men or just old creatures with long beards. You cannot see their faces. They are looking funky. Maybe the postures of their bodies are also not like usually people are maybe moving. And yes, during the time of the year, it was considered, it was believed to kind of impersonate something else in terms to shake the world, change it, create a chaos, so you can return afterwards in the regular order. So if you want to clean something, if you want to create some kind of order, you should destroy everything before. So this was partly one of the things that were happening during these masked processions. You can see me and my friends trying to impersonate Martinbērn here, and also Katrīnas, you know, the pissers, the ones who destroyed everything. So yeah, this was a time when we were participating in traditional mass festival in Estonia several years ago. And in particularly in this creature, you can see this person is staying with the back turned to you. So it has the face here, hands are coming right here, but this is actually the back of the body. You can see from the shoes, maybe, if you look really carefully. So this is another way how to symbolize this backwards, changing, creating chaos, the opposite of what you are yourself. A little bit further, maybe around December time, closer to Christmas, people started to mask differently as well. So the old spirits and ghosts went away, but different kinds of characters kind of woke up and started to walk around from house to house. And these are masked processions that are called Chigani. And Chigan is also a word for ethnos that was and still is partly living in Latvia, gypsies or Roma people. So yes, you cannot see very well here, but here you can see this is masked group of Chigani, and this is yeah, there's a big question why people were dressing like Latvians, why they were dressing up as another ethnos, and wasn't it like, you know, making fun of them or just trying to bully them? But actually, it's believed that if you impersonate something that is different, like the unknown, you can also then more easily return back to yourself. So from Latvian perspective, Chigani, the gypsies, were like completely opposite of themselves. They were maybe having darker hair, longer beards. They were more enthusiastic, louder, play different music instruments maybe. So during this time of the year, Latvians, people who were living in the region of Latvia, impersonated these kind of, in their understanding, gypsies, also Jewish people, just to you know, impersonate them, feel how it is to be different, live through the chaos, and kind of try to make the winter go away earlier, faster. Not only humans were impersonated, but also animals. For example, here you can see a bear. And a crucial part of the costume usually was a symbolism of fertility, especially men genitalia. So you can see easily 2 onions and a big carrot, just like that here. So it was also kind of like pointing out the fertility or the willing or the praying for fertility to come after this long cold winter. Oh, sorry, I just noticed there are some things in the chat. I'll try to read them. What is the main instrument being played? It sounds like Scottish bagpipes. Only much more pleasant. Oh, thank you. It's nice that it sounds pleasant for somebody. Yes, in the video there was bagpipes played. In general, there are several popular music instruments in Latvia. Most popular, I would say, is kuokle or kannel or gusli in Russian. I can maybe show you later in the picture, but you can also Google kuokle. So it's like string instrument with usually 11 strings, something similar maybe to sitar. And yeah, that's the most popular in the folk songs. But bagpipes used to be very popular instrument in several kind of processions, like rituals, also in talkas to help with the rhythm for working. Also, as you know, in the South or just in America, where for example cotton was harvested with the sound with the certain rhythm, and that this is how gospel music was created. Actually, yes. But nowadays, maybe yes, bagpipes um, have gained certain kind of popularity, because also in this video particularly there was one, the soundtrack was by one band called Auli that is pretty known also outside from Latvia. They are usually traveling around all the world and showing that not only Scottish knows how to bagpipe, but also actually this tradition was very popular all around Europe. And I don't know any European country or region where bagpipes would have not been played, I think. Yeah. So yes. Even just now I have been helping family in Lago to harvest and enjoy eating fresh vegetables there. So yeah, you then it was talca you experienced. That's wonderful. So you have this experience of talca. Sounds like hard work, but also rewarding. Yes, it was actually, I can say it myself that sometimes I just wish I knew how to enjoy the fruit of your hard work, because yeah, many people nowadays don't pay that much attention to resting, to kind of observing what's happening. And maybe the biggest, and according to what I have heard from my professors, maybe the biggest difference between this time and this thing kind of thinking and nowadays is that remember from the first photo I showed you, the circle, the thinking was also circular. Right now it's linear, just we are going on a straight line or willingly going on the line up. But in this kind of mythological understanding of the world, things are repeating. They are coming and going, and we are living through it all over and over again. And we have the same stops. So we should stop there. We know where to stop. We know where particular time has ended. So we kind of, okay, this is it. We process it. Okay, so we go further. So now this comes. But if you're living maybe in a city and building career, working a lot, and constantly moving further, to something, you can also never stop, you know, never, because there are no just previously said points where you should stop, and you can consider this to be your I don't know, what some kind of point of your life where you just enjoy, rest, consider what's been happening, and then you can move to this next period, because we never know what's next, you know. Yes, sorry, it was a little pause about this, but here we are. Half of the year has been already lived through, from Jāņi to Ziemassvētki or Christmas. So this is the the winter solstice, where the night is the longest and the day is the shortest, the opposite of Jāņi. You can see again in here in this picture, basically the same thing, but only with the snow around. People gathering around bonfire, circle, heat, light, warmth, and the need to be together. So this was believed to be a time of the year where we are kind of waking up after the frost, after the coldness, because after this time of the year, the nights are going to be shorter and shorter and shorter. It doesn't mean the winter is over, not at all. If you have been in Latvia, maybe you lived here, yes, until February, I think it's pretty cold still. But you can slowly see that the time is changing. And I can see from my perspective also, I have lived in countryside this last year. I moved around a year ago. And besides the thing that I have lived with traditional culture next to me or inside me for all my life, because I grew up also in like traditionally thinking maybe family doing folk music every day. Then only now, when I moved away from Riga, I noticed these little things that, yes, actually I can see, not according to the calendar or what scientists tell me, the night is becoming shorter. So things are changing, and you can see from any little blossoms on the branches that something is changing, and yes, the spring will be here soon. So this was what people were doing as well when these traditions were created or formed or just lived their life. Oh, also, yeah, during the Christmas, it's not like people are just standing around the bonfire and singing. Lots of other things are happening. For example, eating together, eating certain kinds of food that also symbolize the sun or fertility. For example, peace, or these pastries that are filled with peas or maybe pork or cabbage. And yeah, different things as well, but in this short presentation I cannot tell you all of it. But if you want to, I can always send you more materials about certain things you are interested more into. So just ask me after the presentation. Spring solstice. No, not yet. Spring solstice is Easter. In between the winter and the spring solstice is the time of the year that is called Metteni. And I will show you a video right now again that will very, very well explain what is it, what is Metteni. So this is again going to be a nice bagpipe journey for you. And Metteni was time of the year where the masked processions were coming to end. And the last group of masked, last part of masked groups were going from house to house, making noise and trying to, you know, call for the sun to come back. And this was like the real time that people already, you know, saw signs of spring to be coming. For example, yes, the one I mentioned, that you can observe that sun is coming, like the day is becoming longer and the night shorter. So that also, these observations encouraged people to go like more loudly and more, and yes, this is it. So maybe in nowadays, this time of the year around Christmas is more maybe quiet, more focused on the inside of the person. But traditionally, this was, people were putting their energy to outside, to kind of trying to shake the world around them, if that makes sense. So I will now play the video, and maybe I will just press something again so I make sure the sound will be okay as well. Wow. Maybe you have some questions now. I'll go back to the presentation. No, not yet. Okay. So what you saw were was of course like video made for public to see, maybe also to promote this bagpipe music, of course, but partly it is like probably the celebration was held with a lot of noise and with these funky looking men impersonating the characters of this Meteņa time, and they were called Budeļi as a masked group, as we had Mārtiņbērni, the children of Mārtiņš. Then yes, these guys with these raised spike hats and the symbolism of phallus again, and with the noisy drums and everything, and with the branches, they were called Budeļi. And yeah, many things you saw in the video was to kind of start like really actively move the world and, you know, make it alive and kind of call for the warmth and the sun back. And of course, many of these things could be considered to be very brutal and unethical as well. But I just want to remind that this is the tradition that has been here for many, many years and was formed during the time when it was really, really hard to live in this countryside conditions. So it's completely different kind of thinking. But moving further to celebrations in one slide, more shortly, maybe Easter time is all about the sun, because then it's like here it's the spring solstice, the spring and during spring solstice, day and night is just equal, the same length, the same as was in the autumn solstice or Mikkeli, you know, with the big pumpkins. So it's equal, and it's becoming to be more longer than the night, the day. So it's definitely a big celebration of the sun, of the light, of the warmth. And yes, the biggest symbol of Easter that has lived through centuries and also is still very important in nowadays pop culture as well and commercial culture as well, is the egg. Egg symbolizes also the sun, the round movement, but also it like fertility, because it's like the egg is coming from the chicken and is supposed to create another life. So yes, the egg was impersonating sun, and many different activities with eggs were made. For example, this one, the first one, was coloring eggs, and people were using natural colors, natural, I don't know, cereal, leaves, branches, flowers, any kinds of things you can find in your household, or maybe something that has already blossomed, maybe around this end of March. So and then they were put it together, put it in onion skin, and just yeah, all together, and then they were boiled. So this is the way how the color of the egg was created. And then yes, people were waking up really early in the springtime, the spring solstice, and watching the sunrise. I have lived through this tradition myself, and since childhood I remember it was really, really special experience, because we were waking up, I suppose, at 4 o'clock or something like that, going somewhere outside of city where you can see the sunrise, ideally on the hill, so somewhere higher than the regular city environment. And yes, we gathered together, we sang songs about sun, And we saw this magical moment when from red sky you start spotting this just a little bit of sun, and it's becoming more and more visible, bigger and bigger, coming higher and higher. So when you greet the sun, then you can start these activities with eggs, maybe some egg fights or rolling them down from the hill or several different things. And when the solstice of the spring has been celebrated, next in between celebration between solstices is Uusiņi or Uusiņš Day celebration. And Uusiņš is another character of Latvian mythology. I wouldn't say he's considered like one of the gods, but he's definitely very important character in Latvian mythology. So he's like the guardian of the horses, also for bees, or in general of this time of the year. According to nowadays calendar, it is around the beginning of May, something like that. But just practically, it's the first really like warm night where people were leaving the horses out of the stables, just leaving them outside overnight, as it happens during the summertime. Horses are just doing their thing always outside. So this time of the year when it started was also marked, especially people were also sitting together with the horses during all the night. Usually men were the ones who spent this night together with the horses. Also, just considering that men in these rural households, traditional households, were responsible of the horses, taking care of them, doing everything that was happening with horses, because horses were an important part of traditional household, not only as a transportation, also like a working engine. So definitely in the folk songs of Uusiņš time, masculine energy is pointed out very much. And I have also been part of Uusiņš celebration nowadays, and some people are indeed celebrating it more, putting the how is it? Just pointing out the masculine energy, that the boys and the men are the ones who go there, and women are just there, I don't know, to bring something like a food or something like that, or just sing for them for a while, but then they go away, and the men stay there until sunrise. Yes. So this is the end of my first part of the presentation. I will now look if you have some questions, maybe, because the next part will be not about the gadskārtas and the seasonal celebrations, but concentrating more on people. The hats are made from grains. Yes, the hats were, go back. The hats are, like, I would say the most important thing for this of this costume itself are the hats. So usually from rye spikes or straws, or maybe wheat as well. They are put together. At the beginning, they just I think they create like a little crown out of the straws, and then they put these long straws together and connect here up with red ribbons. So the red color also is like really energetic and kind of activates something as well. Yes, but also the symbolism of the hat is the same symbolism what can be seen here. So basically the same thing here and here. the symbol of phallus. Is there a special scale for Latvian traditional music? What do you mean by special scale? You can also ask your question if you want to. You can unmute yourself.
I mean, like in China, we have a traditional pentatonic scale. Like,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I feel like the music was sung in Latvian, and that because of the musical instruments is special.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. Now I got your question. Yes, well, Chinese pentatonic is very unique, but I think mostly in Latvian traditional music, the scale is the same as overall in Europe: do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. But there are several vocal or instrumental traditions that, for like this Western understanding of music, could sound weird and maybe even unpleasant. For example, having seconds at the same time. For example, do and re at the same time, if they are played, they create like this not very pleasant sound, maybe. If somebody was singing do and another person was singing re, it's not common in the Western understanding of music. So this is the part of music that is not harmonized and is considered to be more archaic layer of Latvian traditional music. We cannot for sure say that, for example, before Christianity came in this area, before 13th century, this type of music was most popular, but we can say that definitely it was there, and not only in one particular region of Latvia, but also in, for example, in the, I will show in the map a little bit later, where, yeah, more specific vocal traditions have been spotted. Another thing I will point out specifically in the following slides as well. So thanks for the question. That's a very interesting one. Okay. So continuing with, if there are no more questions, sorry, no more questions. So moving from the nature to the human, to people. During the time of a person, 3 times of their life were considered to be especially important and to be marked especially as well. All 3 of them were considered to be like big initiations where something is changing. A process after what you are not the same person anymore. You are becoming something else. And the first one of them was christening, also before the tradition of church came into this area. Christening as a giving name, as a ritual of giving the name or welcoming the child into the society and also to the family, was a thing. In Latvian, it's called krustabas, and the name is also connected with the name of cross as krusts in Latvian. So in folk songs or in dainas, the process is described very precisely, and yes, it was happening. I cannot be so sure when I say maybe. Well, definitely this ritual was happening before the child was, I don't know, 1 year old. But I cannot be so sure when I say when exactly, and also maybe it just differed. So not at the very beginning, because at the very beginning when the child was born, it was considered not like not good idea to show the child to somebody outside from the parents' cycle or just the closest family, just to protect, and also just practically, protect the child from I don't know, any diseases or just too much stress or anything. So this christening tradition maybe happened, as you can see in the picture, the child is already maybe, I don't know, half a year old at least. These pictures are from times when people are still celebrating them, choosing this tradition for their children. And besides the child, or in Latvian pāde, the christened child, and the child's parents, another people were really important, of course, godparents. And for each child, there were 3 godparents. And also you can see for this lucky little guy, this little boy has 3 godparents for him. So he's a man, he's a boy, so he has like two ladies, 2 godmothers that will take care of him, and also 1 godfather. For girls, it was vice versa, 2 godfathers and 1 godmother. And during this ritual, the child is kind of given from hand to hand to every person that attends this event. So every relatives, of course, closest family, godparents, also friends, neighbors, maybe further relatives that come to this event. Each of the person gets his or her time of carrying the child in the hands and kind of in the rhythm while the songs are being sung, are giving, their love to this little child. So as I mentioned, the name Krustabas or Kristības as well, maybe sometimes comes from the cross. And if you remember, during the slides, I was telling you about Māra Day. In the bread, there was this cross put it in. So you can see it here again, the same symbol. And Māra is the goddess and the guardian of life. So this process, this important life event, is very, very much connected with life. Well, as much as the rest of them, of course, as well. But this is like really fragile life that has to be being taken care of. So Māra, as a goddess and guardian of life, is here also attending this event. So yeah, this is because the symbol of Māra is a cross. Also the Kristības, Krustabas as a process is called after the symbol. And you can see also several meanings of the symbol written down here. The next and the most important and most celebrated event of a human life was considered to be wedding. Here I have put it like an infographic or just like a picture of the function, like maybe the biggest meaning of the wedding, maybe in understanding of ancient Latvian. Because if you're living in a country and if you are willing to continue, for example, your household, if you are the first son of the family, you should continue it with the good wife, with the good and big wedding that will continue with a bunch of kids. Of course, it's how I say it right now is not completely, that was not the only important thing for people back days, but it was considered to be more important than maybe nowadays. So wedding as a continuance of the family. As wedding was the most beautiful and most celebrated, like most widely celebrated event of the life. It has also the longest list of things you are going through, as a parts of this celebration. And it starts not only in the wedding day, but like way back previously, where people are looking for each other. And this also was like an official process where the guy decides which next to be hostess he wants to marry, and then he officially goes to the parents and asks and offers what he can offer to the girl and also to the parents, because they are kind of receiving the like the salary, the award of growing this wonderful young lady that is going to be a wonderful hostess. So yeah, there are many parts of wedding, but um, here in the picture you can also see how it's celebrated today. Family I personally know as well, they are greeting the newlyweds with this kind of symbolism of gate that they go through, and once they go through they can never go back. They are already initiated in this next part of their lifetime. And here in the picture, you can see a dowry that is made by the girl's family, and is filled with many beautiful knitted suit and just things that this girl has made during her lifetime before wedding. And those things like shirts, gloves, socks, anything, blankets will be useful for her future family time, life, but also they were considered to be gifts for the relatives of the husband as well. So during the wedding time, each bride were giving gifts for each of the husband's closest relatives. For example, like a pair of socks, like wool socks or gloves. I'll shortly explain what's happening here. This is from a wedding of my friend. This girl was getting married in this traditional way as well. And this is mythologically exactly the moment when she's becoming from maiden to wife. In the first picture on the left, you can see that her flower crown is being taken away by her husband. And if you look closer, you can see the symbolism of two things: the round circle and the sharp stick, for example, if you want to call it like that. So yeah, these two things, of course, symbolizes the reproductive organs of male and female, and they are coming together and kind of leaving the past in the past, and moving forward to something else. And after this flower crown is being taken away, then the mother of the husband, or maybe both mothers, are putting, instead of the flower crown, are putting on this lakats, I know, this and this thing that the already married woman is having. So you can also from afar already see if she's married or not. So it's easier for everybody. But yes, this was a beautiful moment. And afterwards, for example, this crown in her wedding, it was given to her best friend. So she kind of wished that her best friend also one day will have it taken away. But until now, she has to wear it. So I can see one question in the chat. when my wife and I got married here in LV, we had many traditional and non-traditional tasks and games, and it was so much more interesting than weddings in New Zealand. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes, actually, there are so many things that are happening in weddings. I have no time to explain and to introduce you to all of them, but I'm glad you have had such experience. And now I will maybe just point out one of the experiences, one of the games that are happening during the wedding time. So previously I mentioned traditional masked processions that are happening during the winter time, but also masking was popular during the wedding time. Here you can see wonderful brides to be trying to pretend that they are the real ones who are getting married that day. One of the games that have been and still are played in weddings that are, held traditionally or partly traditionally, is that the groom has to guess which of the brides is his. So he has his eyes closed, maybe, something tied around his eyes. And then these ladies come into the room, and I know, maybe from voice, maybe from touching, he has to find out who is the one. And for example, here you can see that this lovely lady comes together with the sheep. So this is not only this guy is masking, but also he's kind of masking his dog as to be a sheep. So to show that, this lady is wealthy, and maybe take this one because I come together with the sheep, so you will have another one in your household, and we will have more wool to make clothes from. And yes, well, fortunately, in this wedding, the groom knew which wife is which bride is his. He was not mistaken, and they are happily married right now for several years already. Here you can see another masking procession that was happening during a lovely wedding I myself attended. Maybe if you look carefully, you can spot myself in the bunch of the gypsies that are here interrupting the wedding. And this was a place where we, with my friends, were invited to play and entertain the people. Also several years ago, and this was actually a wedding where Latvian girl was marrying Irish men, and for the Irish people it was so unusual. They they just literally didn't understand what the hell is happening when five noisy people dressed up in the opposite sex just entered the room asking what the hell is happening here, where's the food, where's the wine, we are here to have a great time, and where's the newlyweds. So we have some tasks for them as well, and I believe we asked some riddles for them, or maybe asked to do something. So as like the symbolism of it partly is also to make sure that they are knowledgeable enough about wedded life and are ready to enter this part of the lifetime. Yeah, this event I remember with the smile of on my face every time, and as you can see, the newlyweds also pretty much enjoyed it. So moving further to not maybe that joyful event, but also equally important for people, is the last of the three initiations, and the one that the person themselves don't participate. So it's the funeral, or bedības, or bēres as well, another word how we call them. And I won't tell that much about it. There are also, many traditions, and maybe also bagpipes being played with the procession where everybody goes in a line, to the cemetery. But one thing I really wanted to point out, two things. One thing is that not always it had to be like a really sad event. People understood that life comes and goes, maybe even more than we today as modern city people mostly. They saw life and death uh, like regularly. They spotted it in nature. They also, centuries ago, people were dying more from several diseases or, yeah. So it was something they were more aware of. And it wasn't necessarily always connected with the huge sorrow. Uh, if you were able to kind of accept the fact of death, it was easier to let it go. And yeah, weddings, oh, sorry, funeral could be also some kind of even joy that, the person has moved further. And also on this folk song, vedat mani dziedādami, nevadat raudādami, laiet mana dvēselīte piedieviņa dziedādama. I could translate it as let me go while you're singing, not crying, so that my soul will go to the God's hands, in the God's hands, also singing, you know. So if you do it with some kind of lightness, it will be more easier for you and also for the person who has died. And here you can see another symbolism that is connected with the funeral. And this is called in Latvian Māras līklocis. Again, you can spot that I mentioned the same goddess I had mentioned before, Māra, the goddess and the guardian of life. But she was not responsible only of life, also of death, because these two things cannot be kind of divided. She was giving the life, but she was also taking it. And the symbolism, this līklocis or zigzag, is symbolizing, ups and downs and constant moving and process, and nothing stops. As a water, as a waves, everything is moving all the time. And when something goes, something else comes in its place, etc. Also, one important symbol of Mara is water, exactly. And it's, without water, the life wouldn't be happening as well. So it all makes sense if you think about it. About traditional signs, just shortly. My mouth is already, I cannot say anything anymore, sorry. Another tradition sign of Latvian culture is the sign of God, or maybe simply just a triangle. And in many folk songs, the God is just up there on the peak, or maybe on the top of the mountain. And we are asking, please, dear God, maybe come down to us to greet us, maybe come into our room to kind of make it more saint, or bring the wealth and all the good things in our room as well. So from the top of the mountain or the top of the world, God is able to see it all. And this triangle also includes symbolism of three parts of the world. The top of it, maybe as heaven. The middle, as the place we are living here, the earth, the ground, soil, and the place what's underneath, where the devil lives, or the place underworld, or aizsaule. So the place where spirits go when they, when people die, they go not to the heaven, but also maybe to this underworld, just behind it, you know. But also in the symbolism, you can spot maybe past, present, future, or top, middle, and ground. Yeah, you can play with this. And also always find something new about it. I believe the last symbol I will show you is Yumis sign. Yumis was the one that was Apjumi, was also another way how to call this Mikkel time, the harvesting time of the year, the end of September, around that time. So Yumis is a character that is responsible or like a guardian of the wealth, well-being as well, but also wealth in terms of, you know, having enough to live on. And in this symbolism, you can see maybe a great balance between things, between opposite things as well. And maybe you have sometimes spotted that it is possible when you grow grains, then sometimes one spike can have, like one straw can have two spikes. And if that happens, if you find something like that in your field, in Latvian, they are called the Yumis straws. So it is like super fertile straw with two of these, with many grains on it. Just very shortly, because I have not much time left, about Latvian traditional clothing. It was mostly made out of linen and wool. And in nowadays, just in nowadays Latvia culture, two types of traditional costume are revitalized and worn. One type of it is the type of clothing that was worn before Christianity came in this area. So it's coming from archaeological materials, usually from 9th until 13th century deposits. And I will now open another page, website, where you can see also the second. You already saw it on my presentation, for example, in the celebration of Jāņi, but you can also see, for example, yes, more modern clothing. And this is already 19th century, beginning of 20th century as well. Like a clothing that countryside peasants were just wearing. And in spite of that, you can see, you know, women carrying some kind of things that are important for working in the household. These clothing, this particular clothing wasn't the one that was, you know, worn every daily life when people were, you know, just working in the fields and collecting grains or whatever. This clothing that was worn during these important life events, or just important celebrations over the year. So special occasion clothing. Also, the first one I showed you, the archaeological one, as we cannot know that many things, you know, about this clothing, because all we have is just deposits from the from the graves, you know. People were buried in this clothing, in this type, but of course, as it was worn for the funeral, we can assume that it was also not the type of clothing you were wearing daily life. And also imagine, for example, taking out weeds from the garden dressed like this with this amount of metal hanging from you. It would be like physically not very nice thing to do. Also, for example, dancing in this clothing is not very enjoyable because the metal is just clinking to your teeth. Everything's heavy. You are really hot. So it was just for showing off and walking like this, I assume. Just also shortly, another thing I will mention about traditional culture is how it is being preserved nowadays. Of course, as I have mentioned before and showed you in the videos, people are just passionate about traditional culture, and for many reasons, it is important for them to continue doing something, but also institutionally, it's being preserved, and one of the biggest like institutional supports that comes towards particular Latvian traditions is UNESCO a list of cultural heritage, or from all over the world. And from Latvian region, several traditions have been written in the list as well. And the first one I will mention is Baltic song and dance celebrations, or Dziesmu svētki, that is not happening only in Latvia but also in Estonia since 19th century. But yeah, this is like a huge gathering for choir singers and stage folk dancers. But another really interesting and unique cultural space that have been preserved by UNESCO, and also according to that by local municipality, etc., is Suiti region of Latvia. You can see here in the map marked in the red color next to the seaside. So this is the part of Latvia where another archaic singing traditional comes from. Previously, maybe I mentioned this second singing. The neighboring notes are sang together at the same time. In this region of Latvia, drone singing is very popular. Drone singing is the type of singing where, besides the melody, also drone tones are being sang, just on one tone, for example. So imagine people singing some kind of melody, and all the time or partly just one note is also being sang at the same time. This is the type of thing that happens also when you play drone music instruments, and the most popular drone music instruments in the world is bagpipes. So not only melody flute is playing, but also the big flute of drone. But also drone singing has been popular or just have been there also in this part of Latvia, maybe next to the border of Lithuania, also in Latgale in some parts, not all over Latvia, but yeah, more actually to the corners. Now you can see their gatherings also devoted especially for drone singing happening. This is particularly drone singing festival, or burden festival, that happens in this Suiti region every year. And yes, they also always invite not only Latvian folk groups, but also people from another parts of the world where drone singing is popular or just is spotted. Really shortly, from this scientific point of view, what's happening in folklore research, traditional research nowadays, is that already for many decades, people are not focusing only on these old materials and maybe are not you know, thinking of it as something really old and maybe even extinct, but also looking around what's happening nowadays. And as I, for example, also have been showing you not only these archaic materials of how the traditions maybe were living several hundreds of years ago, but also how people are still doing them today. And yes, one of the methods how these things are being investigated are folklore expeditions that is held by, in my case, I have participated in expeditions organized by University of Latvia. Also recently, like a couple of days ago, I was doing interviews in Latvian countryside together with my professors. So this is another way how you can preserve traditions that maybe are older, and also maybe just, you know, from modern world, how people, for example, are celebrating birthdays, or in general collecting their life stories. That is also a big part of our culture as a nation or as a country. Also, internet has a folklore, and folklore has not stopped with the traditional understanding of, you know, cycle of nature. For example, we are living in this world also with more modern traditions. And why, if we spend so much time in internet, why wouldn't we have folklore already in there, some kind of traditions? And this is a joke made by a Latvian student of you know, how you can include traditional culture in the internet jokes or memes. So this is a great Latvian folklorist named Krišjānis Baronis that was responsible for people that encouraged people to send in folk songs from all over Latvia, and he collected each of these things in this big closet he had at home. And there's this internet joke that when you're looking for grandma's pension, but there are only some dinosaur, only some folk songs in this closet, as he would be looking for money in his grandma's closet, but some songs, put it in there. Right now, this closet of Latvian folk songs, or dainuskapis, is a really, really important object of Latvian, like Latvian, I know, culture itself, and it is put it in the National Library of Latvia. You can see it if you visit the library someday. It is put it in a special environment where it will be preserved, hopefully, until the end of the time. I guess this is it about my presentation. I will now answer to your questions. If you have some, no, you don't have any in the chat, so you are welcome to unmute you and ask me whatever you want. Either it is according to whatever I said, or you have something else in your mind as well. So somebody wrote something. What is the name of your band? I'm glad you wrote. The name of my band is Banga. Banga as a big wave. You know, the word banga in Latvian, it means a big wave. So you can look it up in, I think in Instagram, we are Banga Folk. Yes, and we are actually a lucky group of friends that just come together and celebrate these celebrations just for us. But also, yes, we have some public events and are asked to participate in many festivals and happenings. And also we just easily we just enjoy traditional music, so we make concerts and concert programs and doing some recordings in studio right now. So yeah, I'm going next week to see Skyforger. I'm very excited. Oh, good for you. Yes, Skyforger is actually popular all over the world. That's wonderful example of how traditional music can be adapted to nowadays popular, or not that popular, but nowadays metal music. Are children taught about Latvian culture at school, or is it only at home? Partly, most important or most noticeable information about Latvian traditional culture is included in official scholar programs. Usually it is connected to the time of the year what comes. For example, when the Christmas time comes, teachers of music or the class teachers include some content from Latvian traditional wintertime folklore in the content of lessons. And also, yeah, certain traditional celebrations are being held in the schools as well. For example, like Christmas concert or Easter celebrations. But yes, this is not only thing that is happening during the time. Also, you know, just in general, more popular things that we associate with nowadays Christmas are also included. I would say overall, yes, it's being done, but big problem is that not all of the pedagogues do understand the meaning of the traditions themselves. So they maybe just take some things out of the context. For example, in the springtime, if you have music lesson for your kids in school, you teach them some springtime games or dances. So they learn something. For example, they go in a circle, play some game where somebody is a goat and somebody is a wolf. So they chase each other and everybody else is standing in a circle and maybe clapping hands or singing some song. So this is like a fun thing to do with children, but I don't know how much teacher also explained, for example, the meaning of these seasonal games. For example, with this particular, what I mentioned is that the goat symbolizes the sun and the wolf symbolizes the darkness, or the sun and the moon, or the light and the darkness. So they are chasing each other just at the same way how sun is going one way and you know the moon is following, and they are never meeting. And also, yeah, for example, when the times are changing and days becoming longer and night shorter, the circle is happening all the time. So yeah, this is, I hope I answered to your question. You can also ask if you unmute you if you want to. I'm open for more questions.
Yes, I have a question about the sign you showed us for the funerals. This red and white crosses as a sign from Mara, who also is responsible for the death, as I understood. Mm-hmm. And before you showed us this bridge on the wedding, where the couple has to go through.
Yes.
Is it the same? It looked like this red and white belt also in the wedding ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
This one. Yeah. And the second question, it's not the Lielvardas Josta, it's other signs, or is it?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is just a part of belt from the traditional clothing, and then in the belt several signs were just put it in when they were made. So I'm not that knowledgeable about the traditional clothing, but it can be the same, because you know the important life events have basically the same meaning and the same kind of point. You know, you mark special event that is connected always to the circle of life, changes, initiation, etc. It is not Lielvārdes josta, but you can see there are many symbols inside. The most noticeable maybe is this zigzag, but also you can see this kind of circle that is called the garden. That is the symbol of sun. Also, you can see here, maybe not that well, but you can see here Jumis. You know, this symbol of two spikes
Yes.
together. Yeah, many things you can see in there. And I believe that, yeah, well, when people were making their belts, they just put it in what was important for them.
Okay.
And maybe, yes, if the belt was made particularly for wedding, you maybe more put in these fertility symbols, maybe. But yeah, it was up to anybody who made and still makes, you know, still there are many people who do these things, who create their own traditional clothing, and either for themselves or just for as a business as well. So whatever feels right for you, whatever you want to, whatever also looks good, it's not important, you know. It has to be beautiful. You're showing it to everybody else. It's your clothing. So yeah, I hope I answered.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's exactly that what you told us about this circle thinking, not progression and decay, but every ending is a beginning. It's very interesting that you still live it in your culture.
Well, yeah, partly maybe.
Partly, of course.
We have signs that people were living like that. I wouldn't say that maybe most of Latvian society lives like that. Since I'm living in countryside, I think I'm living like that more than I was before. But of course, yeah, you cannot. If you are part of nowadays society, I don't believe it's possible to live fully like according to the cycle of nature. You have to consider other things as well.
Yes, of course.
Hmm.
Yes.
Now, par ko? Some other questions, maybe? You can also write them in email afterwards.
Man liekas, tu esi tik labi visu izstāstījis, ka jautājumu pat vairāk nav tev.
Maybe Toms, he unmuted himself.
No, it's okay. Paldies.
Tā kā laikam visiem. Ok, jautājumu nav, tad liels paldies Ilgam. Nu, tad jau līdz citai reizei. Tad jau saprotu, ka Jāņi ir zinām, kā jāsvin, tad laipni aicināt Latvijā un svinēt Jāņus 23. jūnijā.
Tieši tā. Yeah, and if you have some questions, Sarmita will send you the presentation and my email address as well. So feel free to connect with me.
Ok, labi, paldies jums.
Paldies.
Labi.
Paldies.